the environment is not supportive of entrepreneurship and the transformation of ideas into credible, sustainable businesses. When our environments in general lack the facilities to run simple, small businesses, whether you're talking about the organizer on the roadside, or the baker, or the welder, steel metal fabricators, for one reason and one reason only, what you call the power. Without that, we cannot do anything really sustainably. And it makes it difficult to run businesses. So the cost of production or the cost of providing services becomes higher, and that makes us non-competitive.
Okay.
Because if your cost base is high, you're already on the wrong footing starting off.
Okay.
That's one of the problems. We have a lot of resilience, and that's what I meant by we're doing a lot of things right, but just in the most difficult way.
Okay,
If we have the right sort of encouragement...
Sorry for interrupting. You talked about power.
Yes.
Are you talking about electricity?
That's what I meant, yes.
In Africa, I guess some countries, they have stable power supply.
Yes, they do. So some have stable power supply, even Ghana down the road. When I was there 3 weeks ago, the light did not blink for a second for the 6 days or so I was there, which was very fantastic. But even when they have the power stable, reasonably stable, then the policy environment itself is wrong. So you may have power on the one hand, but then you have government policies that do not support creativity and innovativeness in business. And if you're driving businesses out because of wrong government-industry relationships, let me call it that, move away from the policy matter for the time being, then it means either the governments don't understand the way private sector work, or they're not communicating with them sufficiently to understand what private sector needs and how the government could make available what private sector operators actually need to operate successfully. To create the same wealth that you're talking about earlier is difficult because there are companies there that have the sufficiency in terms of space to accommodate and absorb a lot of the high unemployment figures we have right now, but they can't because they don't have the other inputs to help their productivity to supply in the market. So it will be a waste of money if you're taking on more people when you don't actually have the basic things you need for those people to work with. And that was one of the challenges we have. So yes, but I always say that the power is one primary thing that we need to sort out. Once we sort that out, get the policy environment right, let governments talk to private sector operators. Governments don't run business. They create policy environments that facilitate and promote business. That's one of the things that I believe we need to sort out in Africa.
We want you to throw more light on these challenges, possible challenges a businessman or an upcoming business or an entrepreneur will possibly face when starting up a business.
Okay.
Possible challenges.
Capital is usually one of them. Usually quite often is what most businesses will say they have as a main challenge, not having the money. But I always say that let the money be the least of your worries.
Okay.
Think about how you're going to manage the resources that come into that business, including the money. Because if you don't have the right business management skills, you'll be throwing money away. You spend money in not the right ways. The other thing is trying to run too fast, too quickly. So if you start today, don't try and grow too quickly. Your growth must be managed growth, so that everything is under checks and balances. And that's why you need other people in the business to help manage other parts of the businesses. Having the right skills to delegate. Don't try to do everything yourself. And you mentioned the issue of trust earlier. Yes, a lot of small business owners don't have the confidence to trust their partners in the business or collaborators or participants in the business. But you must have that to be successful. Being able to let go of what you're not so good at, delegate that to someone else, and have the trust and confidence to trust them to do the job effectively and stay within what you know best. Everybody has the same 24-hour in a day.
Yes.
I can only do so much in my 24 hours, but you can do something else in your 24 hours. If we bring that together, we create a synergy that can get the business to run better. That's what I'm talking about. So the challenges are many. Many don't know how to manage the money in the business. They see all the money as one, so they cannot separate profit from capital.
Okay.
Because they say it's my money.
Okay.
So they'll be eating into the profits until they actually end up eating into the capital they started with. And then the money runs dry and there's no business continuity. Because why? They've not got the right tools for financial management in the business. Even simple bookkeeping. keep an eye on what is coming in, keep an eye on what is going out. Even the pin, the stapler, the clips that you buy, they may be simple things, but actually they cost money. Every business decision has a financial implication. That's one thing you need to bear in mind. Every business decision you make has a financial implication. And if you overlook the financial implication, then you throw money away, unfortunately. So there's a whole host of things. Many don't know how to even promote their business. They lack marketing skills. Even the ones that go out and promote and do the advertising, etc., don't know how to deal with customers. Even both good customers and not so pleasant customers, still you must have the right skill to deal with them. When customers come back to complain, they shout at them. I said, no. When a customer comes to complain, they're telling you there's something you haven't gotten right. But they're still happy to do business with you. Otherwise, they would not say anything. They just go somewhere else.
Just go.
So it is free market intelligence that the customer that comes to complain is offering you. What you will pay market research agencies to go and find out for you. The customer comes back and complain, you say, thank you very much, Mr. or Mrs. We're so sorry. We'll try and do something about it. And when you make a promise, one thing, don't fail on it.
All right. Okay, that's if you make a promise.
Yes.
Don't fail.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of times when we see the big companies, then the next thing, the person that takes over from the CEO is the son or the daughter that might not even be interested in that particular business. What do you say to those?
It's a wrong move in most cases. If you start a business and you think that in terms of succession, part of succession planning is to bring in members of the family, it's much easier to bring them in right from an earlier stage, so they could get a better understanding of the way the business operates and runs, but not towards your retirement when you're thinking, now I can't do this anymore. And I think my son is the best person to take over. Well, sorry, your son was not there when the business started. Your son was not there when the business was growing. Your son was not there when you're growing your relationships, both within and outside the business. They will come and mess it up. The only thing they will see is the money. How the money got there, they don't know. And unfortunately, they mismanage that. So in terms of succession planning, yes, handing over to family members is good. But if they haven't got the right skill set for it, better to hire from outside. It's everyone's business in any country to help the private sector. When I say help, I don't mean giving them money, but helping in the sense of creating the right environment in which they can operate.
Yes.
The private sector does not create the policies, unfortunately. There's issues of regulation and compliance the private sector operators must deal with. It's about those forming those regulations and the necessary accompanying punitive measures where there's failure to comply, to make sure that those are still friendly somehow. Because in any case, no economic grows without the private sector. Growth has always been private sector led. So it's in everybody's business, actually, everybody's interest that the private sector is operating efficiently and successfully. Why? There's a lot of contribution to the national treasury. There's a lot of money you collect in corporation tax. And from direct employment tax, from payroll tax for those employees that are employed. So therefore, if we don't have the right environment for businesses to succeed in, we're not really going anywhere. And that's where quite often, I think I've seen in my experience in Africa, so many private sector operators will go after government contracts. But government contracts don't do business. It may be about one infrastructure. Once that's completed, that's it. And you're looking for another contract, another contract. But when you're in the private sector, that you're actually producing something that the public wants, then the multiply effects are so many, I can't even go into them right now.
Okay, then what about the mentality of people that just love foreign things? If it's made in your country, they'll look at it, So what can we do about how do we sensitize people to love
get their own
products made from their African countries?
And I see this all the time when we say we're promoting made in Nigeria, made in Africa, and we go out on a road show and do all sorts of jamboree, make all sorts of noise. I think the challenges are, again, many, but probably the first one is the lack of trust in the quality of what we produce. So we don't think we are capable of producing something that's right for us. We also have this...
Are the customers right in that way?
In some cases they are. And the examples are many. They're out there. When you talk about fake drugs and fake products and fake this and fake that, you buy a pair of shoes today, the sun comes out nice, shiny, hot for 1 week, and everything is peeling off the leather on the shoes. That's what I mean. So not having the right quality standards. The Standards Organization of Nigeria, I think, has a role to play there, making sure that what is produced locally is fit for purpose. It's misrepresentation in other countries. If you say this will do that, and it doesn't, and I pay my money, I have the right to come back to you to ask my money back. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in Nigeria. Once you bought it and walk away, even if you take only 2 steps after that shop, you can't come back and say, I want my money back, unfortunately. So it's everybody's business, really, to get the private sector going properly. It's both the work of government and government agencies and ministries and departments and the private sector business leaders. They must have, look, we have the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and you have NACSI and the rest of them. All the chambers, all the organized private sector must maintain a close relationship with the government. Dialogue, communications, let businesses tell the public officers what they need, and let the public officers say, yes, but we cannot fund all of that. Let's find space to collaborate and cooperate. If I give you a quick example, Disney World in Florida, when Disney was going to establish, the I-92 was the only road leading through Orlando and Kissimmee, etc. All the other roads going into the park were built by Disney itself. Because the government of the state of Florida said they can't afford it. Disney said, no problem, we'll build. Just grant us the license. And since Disney is established there, the state also has benefited from the revenues from Disney World. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes the infrastructure we lack, government doesn't have the funds for it. The private sector can fund it. But somehow the public officers still refuse to grant the license. Say, it is our road, it's a federal road. Only we have the responsibility to do it. Yeah, but you don't have the means, or you don't have the will even.
And now we want to do it.
And we want to do it, and you're saying, no, you can't do it, it's not your road. Where are we going? Right? I can mention many companies, but I won't mention names. Large operators in this country that are frustrated because of that simple policy, that government will refuse to allow a private sector operator to construct or even repair a road that's become damaging. Yes, you have trucks carrying haulage and all sorts of things along that road that sometimes tip over and fall, lose a lot of goods and revenue because the roads are not good enough, and because government, local government, the state government, the federal government is not allowing them. It's the work of the Ministry of Works and Planning. Yes, so let us do it when we have the money to do it.
You know,
the private sector people are saying, no, we don't want to wait for you to find the money. We have the money. Let's do it because it's affecting our business.
You can join us tomorrow for another exciting episode of Tea or Coffee.